Hi, welcome to Small Talk. I am George Dillard.
Yeah, and I'm Rex Wisely, and we're super excited that you've decided to join with us today.
We're looking at a passage of Scripture out of the 5th chapter of Hebrews as we move through our study of Hebrews, and we're looking primarily at verses 1 through 4. So let me read those for us. Every high priest is selected from among the people and is appointed to represent the people in matters related to God, to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. He is able to deal gently with those who are ignorant and are going astray, since he himself is subject to weakness. This is why he has to offer sacrifices for his own sins, as well as for the sins of the people. And no one takes this honor on himself, but he received it when called by God, just as Aaron was. So we're getting into some pretty deep stuff. Honestly, Rex, a lot of stuff that people generally steer away from in teaching and preaching situations. So let's talk about it a little bit. And
so some of my first questions or thoughts about these in dealing with the high priest is, if you were with us in the previous ones that we did, we talked about, Jesus being the great high priest and the one right before this. And so then here we are, talking about some of the things that the high priest did in the Old Testament.
Right.
And, there's some differences between what the high priest, like their responsibilities in the Old Testament, and what Jesus does for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think that contrast is one of the things. I also think that it's also establishing. It's interesting to me that first of all he says no one decided this for himself. It kind of makes me think is if God came to you and said, "Hey Rex, here's the role that I want you to play in the church. And it's going to require that you're this, and this. You stay away from this and this, and there, there's this whole book of things that you absolutely must do and adhere to. What's generally going to be your response?
Yeah, I can't probably. I can do 10%.
That's not. That's not going to be a good fit for me.
Right. Exactly.
And so, but. See, he says nobody would take that role on. And so that kind of reminds me of the deep love of Jesus, because not only is he in a role that nobody would take on of their own will, and he did, but he did it for us, not for himself.
Not for himself. Yeah, there's no selfish motivation whatsoever.
That's that kind of that little part in there where it says the high priest in the old covenant had to offer sacrifice for
himself
first.
Right.
Before he could offer sacrifices for the people's sin.
Right.
And Jesus is just offering sacrifice for the people's sin.
Just for all of us, not for himself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I thought about when we were reading through this is, it says he is able to deal gently with those who are ignorant. And the way that word is kind of accepted or unaccepted in our culture, in our society, it just reminds me of how much we need to get in and pull down and understand the language.
Yeah, the nuances of
because since we don't use the word ignorant or ignorance or anything much in our culture anymore, we would really need to present that as, even though they haven't had the opportunity to learn or the ability to learn.
Right.
And so.
Well, what do you think? I'm curious about that particular verse, since you brought it up, about when it says that the high priest is able to deal gently with those who are ignorant. What's the spiritual maybe ramifications for us today in the way that we should deal with others that might not have had the opportunity to understand or to know or to hear about. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
that's always been one of my things is, you know, there's a code of conduct for disciples, and then there's a code of conduct for everybody else. And the code of conduct for everybody else may be pretty loose, but we don't need to put the parameters of discipleship on those people. And that's where the breakdown, I think, between the church and society occurs a lot of times, because we're expecting people to react to situations the same way we do, except they're not in the same place we are.
Right.
Which is, to me, is important about this word gentle. You know, I've done a lot of word study on that word, and that because it's used quite a bit in Scripture.
Right.
And it says literally what it means is when to apply pressure and when to let off. It's knowing, you know, how much force to use or not use, and in a particular situation.
So that comes with wisdom and discernment.
Right.
Yeah.
Over a period of time.
Provides for us. Yeah.
And so
you know, one of the things that I immediately thought of when you were talking about, you know, being gentle with those even today, for those that may not know, is, you know, I think about even the way that we should deal with people on social media.
Right.
You know, when somebody that isn't from a faith background or doesn't understand, and then we respond to them sometimes in expectation that they should understand. Or
we just had an example of that, and we had somebody who was attacking the church and social media, and Ian very deftly and very smoothly handled saying, you know, we understand you don't agree with us, and all like that, and kind of de-escalated the whole thing.
Right.
And so I think that's really important. Well, I think we're out of time, and so we're going to pick up with these thoughts and ideas next week when we get into verse 5.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and thanks for being here.
We'll see you next time.
God bless.